Hello, everyone. Hi. How are we all doing today? Yes, for those curious, the chibi Fae that appears when people subscribe or follow or anything like that was created by my dear partner. Their name is Lynn, and you can find them at twitch.tv/stumblin. They are very talented and very cool. They also made the banner image that I use for my channel. Um, that's also the art on my starting soon screen. Um, uh, they're very talented. I'm always telling them that they're incredibly talented. They sometimes struggle to believe that. So I like, promoting their stuff whenever I can because artists always have like the worst self-esteem. They always do. It's like a thing I've noticed. I've noticed it about myself. I've noticed it about all the other creatives that I know. Is you're always the harshest judge of your own work. And so I gotta like, build them up because they are talented. So, I hope everyone's having a lovely day. I personally was making some poor choices last night. I I might have been up a little bit later than I should have. It's fine. These things happen, It happens. I was just I did not eat the grass, okay? I'm saving that for my Demon Souls character. Um, but it's just well, well, okay. So, I'm gonna tell you all something and you're not gonna judge me, okay? You're not gonna judge me. Most nights, I go to bed at about 4 a.m. That's normal for me. That is a perfectly reasonable bedtime for me. It's 4 a.m. Um, it's just what I found works best for me, genuinely. I st I still get I still get a reasonable amount of sleep, okay? To be clear, I still sleep an average of like 6.5 hours every night. This is a luxury that I can fully indulge in now that this is my day job and I don't have to be at work super early in the morning. Having a sip of my water. But it's a personal choice. I prefer to stay up late and sleep in a little bit later. The nighttime is my time. But you, last night, right, I neglected to start the upload of the latest YouTube release until it was a little bit later than normal. And so I had to wait for it to export for ages and then make sure that it all uploaded properly. And so maybe last night I was going to bed at about 5 a.m., which is less ideal. the whole hour that I was waiting for it to upload and stuff, like because I just had to leave things sitting for like a half hour, I was admittedly like I was doing my bedtime routine and lying down and listening to some ASMR. So it's not like I wasn't resting, but definitely wasn't sleeping. Um, that's actually fun fact before I get too deep into things. That was my bedtime routine is how I got into ASMR as a thing. Um, because I like listening to ASMR a lot. It makes me very happy. It makes my ears feel cozy and my everything feel tingly. But the reason that started, right? So I've mentioned this a couple times. It's I had bottom surgery in the past. And what ended up one of the things that is required as part of the aftercare for bottom surgery is something that I can't really get too in depth in right here because it's pretty like specific stuff and you know you can make the argument that I'm talking about it in an educational sense, but I don't want to risk things. But there's a part of the aftercare that is permanent, right? You have to be doing this aftercare for the rest of your life. It decreases in frequency, but you will always have to do it. Um, when I first had when I was first in, oh, it was very scary. It was the scariest decision I've ever made. I would also say that it was one of the best decisions I personally ever made, but it was scary. Um, I can talk more about, the reasons why I chose to do it and what the experience was like for me in more depth if you want. Obviously, today's stream is meant to be ASMR, but we can also just do a little bit of yapping. Um, but one of the many things that comes with bottom surgery is this form of aftercare that in my initial recovery period was periods of about 20 minutes, 3 times a day. Okay. Where I would be doing what's called dilating. And I don't really think that I can talk about what that is in much depth on Twitch. Um, but it's something that when I first had bottom surgery, I was doing that 3 times every day, 20 minutes each time. So that was an hour total out of my day that was occupied with this aftercare stuff. Um, and during that time, you can't be moving around or doing anything, and at least one of your hands will be occupied the entire time. And you add on to that the fact that while I was in recovery, I was basically bedbound anyways. I could not stand for very long and I couldn't sit upright. The way that I passed the time, especially while doing that aftercare, was listening to ASMR. It's not so bad. Um, so right, the reason for it, and transphobes like to say that it's a gaping wound that will heal closed, and that's why you have. That's not true. That's fundamentally not true. What is true is that without doing this aftercare, the muscles down there will progressively tighten with time. And so this is just to prevent the muscles from tightening and closing up that way. It's not healing closed, it's just the muscles getting tense and tight and rigid, right? Um and So you just have to do this dilation for a period of time to prevent that. And it is a lot when you are initially recovering, but he was sitting on the chair next to me for a bit. He's left the room now. I think he got sick of me talking. He likes his quiet. But at this point, I only have to do it once a day. And it varies between person to person how frequent it ends up being. For me, once a day. Oh, hi Dill. Hi Dill girl. Hi. Hello. Thank you for becoming a fairy. Welcome. Hi Sleepless Lamia. It's very nice to have you here. Um, but like at this point it's 20 minutes out of my day every day. And so what I usually do is before I go to bed, I'll pop my estrogen under my tongue, lie down on the couch, and listen to some ASMR for 20 minutes while I do that. And that's not so bad. That's a pretty painless way to go about it. And I can miss a day or two every now and then and still be okay. So it's not as dominating a thing as you might think. And it is how I got into ASMR is not having anything better to do for, this period of time every day. And so I discovered that I really enjoyed listening to that. And then I discovered that I enjoyed doing it myself. um okay, so if you all do really want to hear more about my experience with bottom surgery, then I think what we might do, okay? What we might do is instead of voting on an RP concept for now, we might have a little poll where we discuss ASMR triggers that you would like to hear, okay? And I will just play around with some triggers while I talk about my experience with bottom surgery. It's gonna, I will get into some nitty gritty stuff. I will try and filter some things that I think Twitch might be upset about, but we're going to be talking about some significant like medical stuff if we do discuss this. And so it's not all going to be not necessarily the most relaxing subject matter. But if you're interested, then I would be very happy to do that. I would be very happy to talk about it. I have always prided myself on being someone who is willing to educate others about my experience as a trans girl and to, where I can, help other trans folks make informed decisions about things they might want to think about. So, does anyone have any particular ASMR triggers that they would like to hear while we have our little conversation? I'm going to drink my coffee. I once again have coffee because I always have coffee right now because I'm given too much coffee. Scratches, you say? Are we talking running my nails against the mic like this? Or scratching my skin or my hair or a plushie? Some really close whispers. Some really, really close whispers. I could do that too. Would I rather have a crowbar or $10 in my local currency? Okay. Okay, I'm seeing some options. Um, I think I don't know what I would use it for, but I think I'd take a crowbar. Thank you for following Sleepless Lamia. So we have head scratches, which might admittedly be a little bit difficult to do while talking. We have mic tappies. I can absolutely do that. So we have mic tappies. We can do some scritches. We could do some close whispers. Shall I make a poll or shall I just do all of those things as I talk? That's true, actually. If I got a good crowbar, I could just sell it for more than $10. Stonks. All right. Then I'm going to start by doing some whispers, and I'll just whisper while I talk to you, okay? Okay. I'm going to move the mic a little bit so it's in a better position for me to do this ASMR. All right. So I'll be whispering to you while I do some little tappies. And we'll get started talking, okay? So, to start with, I'm going to discuss what it was like getting set for bottom surgery, okay? It was a pretty substantial process the whole way through. I first off took some time to look for a surgeon that I felt comfortable with, but honestly, the deciding factor in the end was this is the surgeon that my insurance will cover. Because it's expensive. If I hadn't had insurance to cover it, it would have ended up costing me about $60,000 total. And that's quite a lot. That's way more than I have. Yes, my surgery would have cost about $60,000. The price is variable depending on the surgeon and your circumstances and the specific surgery you're getting, but without insurance, bare minimum, you can typically expect it to run around $20,000, and that's on the very, 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 very low end. With insurance, it ended up costing me about $2,000 total, so big difference there. It is. It's ridiculously priced. So, insurance covering it was definitely very, very important in the decision-making process. And so I found a surgeon, and I went to a group consultation, okay? And my surgeon is an interesting man, I will admit. I'm not going to say his name here necessarily because that will fully give away the state that I live in, and I would prefer not to do that at this point. But most people who have gone to him for surgery have generally agreed that he is a very, very, very capable surgeon who produces consistently solid results. But he has terrible bedside manner. And it's true, he's not a very personable man. And so I had a group consultation where it was myself and about, I am transgender, yes. It was myself and about 6 other trans women, all talking to him and a few other members of the staff that work with him. And the group consult went on for about an hour, and he explained some of the more common complications, as well as the requirements for getting the surgery done. And, things you would need to buy. That sort of thing. And we had the opportunity to ask questions at the end. And overall, it was very, very kind of awkward. But what he promised, okay, and this is what he always promises. He is a surgeon who does not post the results of his patients online. A lot of surgeons do that. A lot of surgeons will post the surgical results on their web pages as a form of advertising or saying to people I know what I'm doing. Here are the things I've done in the past, right? And he doesn't do that because, first off, he doesn't want to make patients feel any kind of pressure to agree to that, first off. But more than that, he, from an ethical standpoint, disagrees with it. Because even if you do intend the best, if you yourself are posting the work you've done, you're going to be tempted to just show the best results. And he didn't want to give himself that option to bias people's expectations and to make them think that he's better than he is, right? He doesn't want people to expect his very best results every time, and he doesn't want to give himself the option to mislead in that way, deliberately or not, which I respected quite a bit. What he promised at that group consult is he promised an aesthetically acceptable vagina. Those were his exact words. Aesthetically acceptable. And it's true. Because the fact is, everyone looks different. Okay? Everyone looks different. And so he did not promise that it would be aesthetically, the kind of stuff you might see in certain spaces online. He promised it would look like just one of them. And after that group consult, I had to get letters from 2 separate therapists for insurance pre-authorization, which I have some disagreements with personally. I think the number of hoops you have to jump through in order to make all of this work is way too much, but that's an aside for another time. And then after getting those 2 letters of recommendation from 2 separate therapists, I had a one-on-one consultation, and I got to meet the man in person. He had a look at what I had going on down there. I started to learn that, he's terrible with people. Terrible at making you feel comfortable. it was very obviously just a matter of him being a professional who is good at a specific thing and isn't really bothered by anything else. And then after that consult, I got put on the waiting list. Hello, Weebo the First, welcome in. We are doing some up-close whispers and some tapping while I talk about bottom surgery because people were interested. Was he like Dr. House levels of bad? That's Dr. House sets quite the low bar. I don't think my surgeon is quite as bad as Dr. House, no. High bar. Dr. House is very bad as far as bedside manner is what I'm trying to say. And so then I got put on the waiting list. And typically, and this varies depending on time of year, depending on how many people, depending on so many factors. But my surgeon's typical wait times were around 6 to 12 months. But it could happen sooner, and in my case it did. I actually ended up getting thank you, Dino Bird Girl. Once again, artists having low self-esteem. What a surprise. I really appreciate any fan art. Every time it's happened, it's only happened a couple times, but every time it's happened, I have immediately started like gushing to my friends over it. It makes me so happy. So please don't be too harsh on yourself, okay? But I ended up having a surgical date where I was about 2 months after that consult. Actually, it was way sooner than anticipated. And so I requested time off work and I started buying all of my necessary aftercare supplies. Some things will be provided by your surgeon, but lots and lots and lots of things are things that you should provide yourself and that your surgeon might not necessarily tell you about. You see, one of the things that was maybe the most awkward for me, right, is you are expected to be bleeding for a long time after bottom surgery. And even once the bleeding stops, I'm talking about medical stuff here, so I think I'm okay, but there is it's referred to as discharge, and that goes on for a long time. And so, prior to bottom surgery, you are expected to buy pads, like, menstrual pads, and you're expected to buy enough of them to last for the duration of what is essentially a 2 to 3 month long period. So I got to go to the grocery store and fill an entire cart with so many pads. And I felt so awkward going to the register with like just a cart completely full of nothing but pads. And you know what? I needed to buy more later. It wasn't enough. I did. I I will explain later, but I had specific circumstances that made it so I ended up needing more. Okay. um hmm. Well, I am always of the opinion that one of the biggest signs that someone is a woman is wanting to be a woman. Okay? I think that even if you don't necessarily experience dysphoria per se, first off, a lot of people think they don't experience dysphoria when they actually do, and they're just used to it. They think they just feel that way naturally and it's normal. Um, but beyond that, right? If you think you would be happier on estrogen, I think you should take estrogen. That's that's my diagnostic criteria, right? If you would be happier as a woman, give it a try. People talk about how HRT is irreversible, and there are some changes that are difficult to walk back. But basically, all of them, other than surgery, can be walked back. There's absolutely zero harm in if you want to try it, trying it. Trying a new name, trying new pronouns, trying on new clothes, giving makeup a go if you want, growing your hair out. All of that is completely reversible, right? And hormones, like, sure, breast growth is pretty hard to walk back, but you can. It can be done. Trans men exist. um, these are all things that, like, you can try. You can give it a go. And I think if you want to, it's not a bad idea to try. Okay? Um, and the fact is, and this is something I'm going to talk about, is that the whole time leading up to bottom surgery, I was never sure. I was never at any point completely sure that this was the right call. And I did it anyways. And it was worth it. It was the right decision for me. Another thing that if you are going to have bottom surgery, I think you should definitely invest in is a ring pillow. Okay? Hi, Big Lettuce. Welcome to the forest. So it's a pillow that has a hole in the middle of it. It's a ring pillow. And they're pretty often used by people who are postpartum, who've recently had a child, because you can be kind of sensitive and raw down there. And so having a pillow like that means you have something that you can sit on that doesn't put as much pressure on that sensitive area. And so a trans girl who's recently had bottom surgery can do the same thing, right? Um, and so I highly recommend it. It was it was life changing for me. Honestly, you can take a lot of advice from from women who have experienced pregnancy, because the recovery process is different between, recovering from giving birth and recovering from bottom surgery, but there is some overlap and they have some good ideas. They do. I've spoken to some cis women and we've kind of compared notes on our experiences, and it was genuinely like there were a lot of parallels. There were several times where I would like talk about a thing and they would be like, yeah, no, I experienced the exact same thing. This was a suggestion, yes. I talked very briefly about some recent life stuff, and then people got curious about bottom surgery. And so I decided to do some random ASMR triggers while I discuss it, since there was some interest expressed. I think I'm going to switch up the triggers now. I think I'm going to do some mic brushing, if that sounds pleasant to you all. Hold on a moment. I've just realized something. I've just realized it is. There we go. Now it should be set to my proper ASMR audio filter. There we go. There's the good stuff. But eventually, my surgical date did arrive, and my mother, who has been very supportive this whole time, I'm very lucky in that regard, she came with me. We drove around 3 hours to get to the hospital that my surgeon works at, and stayed in a hotel for the night. And when morning came, I arrived at the hospital and went to a group, like big open prep area where a bunch of people were being prepped for a bunch of different operations. And they had me change into a gown and lie down on a bed. And eventually a nurse arrived to stick an IV into the back of my wrist. And my mother was there with me. She was sitting next to me while I was getting prepped. The nurse could not find a vein. Historically, I am someone it's very difficult to find a vein on. I don't know why, but it's just the truth. So after a couple failed attempts, the nurse went to find the anesthesiologist. And the anesthesiologist put in my IV instead. And while the anesthesiologist was there, we had a little conversation. This was my bottom surgery. We're talking about bottom surgery while we do some ASMR today. There were some people who were curious, so I decided to have an open conversation about it while I give you some tingles. And while I had this conversation with the anesthesiologist, he asked if it was okay if he gave me my first meds, and I agreed. And he said it should make me nice and relaxed, and I should feel a little bit like I'm kind of buzzed. What he neglected to mention was that the medication he gave me was also the amnestic medication. There are 4 major medications that you get when you're going under anesthesia, okay? The first is obviously to knock you unconscious. The second is to prevent pain. The third is to paralyze you. And the fourth is to make you forget. And all of this is so that you fall asleep and ideally stay asleep for the whole operation. But in the unlikely event that you do wake up, you first off won't move, second, won't feel anything, and third, won't remember that you woke up at all. And so I didn't realize that the medication that he gave me at the time was the makes you forget stuff medication. And so a lot of people, when they're going in for any kind of surgery, they talk about the anesthesiologist having them count back from 10, you know? I don't remember having that experience. I have no memory of this. I remember being wheeled into the operating room, talking to the surgical team, and then suddenly we smash cut from me having this conversation with them in the operating room as they're getting prepped. We suddenly smash cut to me waking up somewhere else. My head hurts, I'm dizzy, I don't know where I am. My parts are gone now. I'm scared and in pain and it's noisy. It was quite something, I must say. And I don't remember a lot from that first day after surgery because they had me on so many medications for the whole day because there are a lot of sensitive nerves in that area. And so what I do remember, I remember waking up. I remember kind of groaning a little bit. There was a nurse there who was talking to me as I woke up. My mom was there. She was sitting nearby. I couldn't really open my eyes. Oh, it's a little difficult to do a shrimp check when I'm hunched over a mic, but you know, you're right. You're right. I should straighten my back. Do a little stretch. But I was in pain and confused and everything was going on. And eventually a straw gets shoved into my mouth and there's some water and I drink all of that up. I was very thirsty. And once I'm slightly more coherent, one of the nurses asks me if there's anything I need. She starts listing off options, and I think to myself, I need some apple juice right now. And so I ask for some apple juice. And the next straw that gets shoved into my mouth has some cool, crisp apple juice. Oh, it was heaven. It was heaven, honestly. And after a little while, they started wheeling me out of the group recovery area, and they start bringing me towards my room for my stay at the hospital. And the nurses who were bringing me there and the techs who were bringing me there did not necessarily have all of the details of the exact surgery I had just had done. Hi, Ronald. Welcome to the forest. And so I remember we get to the room, and one of the people who wheeled me over there asks me, do you think one of my biggest fears is I imagine I probably said some nonsense. I was mostly focused on apple juice at the time, honestly. Um, but I get wheeled to the recovery room, and one of the people who wheeled me there asks, "Do you think you'll be able to walk to the bed?" And I remember hearing my mother say, "Does she look like she can walk?" Is it allowed to suggest role plays too? So typically, that is what we would be doing. Yes. Uh, most of the time, the recommendations are recommending a role play. It's just that there was a lot of interest very early on in hearing about this experience, and so for this particular instance, we are playing with some triggers while I talk about this. I expect I'm going to wrap up this little blurb pretty soon, and we can do an actual role play in a bit. And I will gladly take your suggestion then. But I get brought to the room, and they lift me and they put me in the bed. And I really don't remember much else of the first day other than that stuff I just told you. But I do know that when I woke up the next day, the little table that was beside my bed, a little table that I had next to my hospital bed, had 6 juice boxes of apple juice. There were 6 apple juice boxes on the table because apparently I just kept asking for more apple juice. I just kept demanding more and more apple juice. The other thing that I remember is that on my first night in the hospital, I got woken up in the middle of the night because apparently my blood pressure had dropped and kept dropping. It was dangerously scary low. And I don't want to say this to scare people. I don't want people to be scared because of this. The cause is known. It is because of my disability. It is because at the time I was not yet diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos. Apple juice is not my favorite. No, I actually prefer grape juice most of the time. But I one of the many things that Ehlers-Danlos can cause is certain cardiovascular issues and issues with healing and wound closure. And so, in the end, because I wasn't diagnosed, they weren't prepared for just how much I was going to bleed. And so, they ended up needing to give me a blood transfusion on that first night. And I remember in the morning, because my mother was staying at a hotel. In the morning, I was talking to her, and I told her about that. And she was like, "Oh my goodness, why did no one call me? I wish I'd known. I would have been here. I'm so sorry." And I say to her, again, I was still on a lot of oxy at the time. I say to her, "Well, you know, I'm in a hospital. I figure if something like this is gonna happen, this is probably the best place I could be, so I wasn't that worried." And you know what? It did work out. I I turned out okay. I got released from the hospital after about 6 days. And then, because of the blood loss that I'd had, I ended up being bedbound a little bit longer than normal. It took about 3 months for me to be able to get back to work, when it normally would take about 2. And I was staying at my mother's place for that whole time, just so that, she could take care of me. She and my stepdad could make sure I was nice and taken care of while I, was weak and frail. I had a stool in the shower, so I didn't have to stand for the whole time, and they would help me walk out to the backyard and lie down in the hammock so that I could get some fresh air and sun. I did have another minor complication. There's a specific type of tissue that your body produces when it's hurt. I'm gonna real quick. Yes. Okay, I remember now. I had a specific complication that is very common among young, healthy people, actually. That's the specific demographic that tends to get this complication. It's people who are very young and healthy. What it was called is hypergranulation, okay? And what it means is that when you get injured, right, your body produces what's called granulation tissue. Well, I can do some more clackety soon if you like. I love clacky keyboards. That was actually the first ASMR that ever really got me with the tingles, was a clacky keyboard. But when you get injured, your body produces granulation tissue. And this tissue is meant to cover things up as things kind of scab over and then eventually heal. Sometimes, though, if you're particularly spry and in good health, your body produces too much of it. It makes too much of the granulation tissue. And so it actually grows beyond the bounds of the wound, which is not good. I did warn you, we were going to be getting into some medical stuff that might not be the most relaxing, but you all asked for this, so you don't get to complain. And so in the end, I had to make regular visits back to the hospital while I was healing, so that they could apply this silver nitrate stuff to it to melt down the excess tissue. It was literally acid designed to melt this tissue. And reduce the amount of it. And so it was yeah, sure, sounds metal, sure thing. It did hurt. It to be clear, it was a painful thing. It was like this constant burning for the entire rest of the day, every day that I had to get it done. It wasn't that bad. Like, it was painful, but it was more of a like, okay, I don't want to move around too much, and I just want to be careful. But yeah, and eventually things healed, and I'm very satisfied with how things look and how things work, and I look really cute in a swimsuit now. I did already, Like, I had this really cute pair of like matching trunks with a matching bikini top before bottom surgery, but like now, whew, oh, I look good in a swimsuit. I tell you what. Maybe I'll post some pics with like my face blurred on Tumblr sometime. Do a fey body reveal. It's I spent money and a lot of effort to look this way. A lot of money, a lot of effort, and a lot of pain. So like, you know, I don't shave actually. I just there's hair down there. I let it grow, boss. I let it grow. Um, I got body hair. That's the thing. I once had a guy get really creepy about my armpit hair once. That was a thing. That's a story for another time. One of my favorites of the weird creeps I have attracted over the years. Oh, it's a funny story in hindsight. Oh, he tried to stick his hand in my armpit. We'll get into that later. Don't worry about it. That's for another time. That's for another time. Yeah. No, I pulled pepper spray on him. I did. This is why we keep pepper spray. This is why you do it. Yeah. No, that is maybe not a story for an ASMR stream. Not that the bottom surgery story really was either, but I'm having a sip of my drink. Yeah, it was admittedly like it's a story that I kind of laugh about in hindsight. It's okay, I don't have a car. I bus places a lot, and you can have some interesting encounters at bus stops. Okay? I have had some encounters at bus stops. Um and that's a story that I'd be willing to tell some other time, and I do think it's something that, I can laugh about in hindsight because like what the hell was that guy's deal? But, in the moment it was very scary. And when the bus did arrive and I got on, I ended up crying a lot. There was a very nice lesbian couple that was also on the bus at the time, and they see me get on the bus crying, and they were very kind to me. They both asked if I wanted someone to sit next to me, and they let me just kind of ramble cry to them about what just happened. See, that's the thing. I think broadly speaking, people are good. I think people are good and people are kind. I think there are some weirdos out there, and I think there are some people who have learned bad behaviors, who have learned hate. But I think there are always good people to balance those out. And I think the good generally outweighs the bad. I think people at their core are good. I think hatred is something that you learn. I think cruelty is something that you learn. I think that behavior, like what that guy did, is something that you learn. It's not something you're born with. If there's anything I would like you all to take away from, time spent with me, it's that people are good. Okay? I want you to believe that because I believe that very strongly. So, my dear friends, my lovelies, there are plenty more stories that I have relating to bottom surgery, but that is the overall summary of what my experience was like, paired with some silly ASMR triggers. This is maybe the weirdest ASMR I've ever done. But I sincerely hope you all enjoyed listening. We're gonna move on now. I'm gonna have another sip of my water because my voice does get tired after a while of doing this. That's why the ASMR streams are, never longer than 2 hours. But we're gonna open things up to suggestions now. Anyone has any ideas, I will gladly take them, and we will make ourselves a little poll where you can all vote about what ASMR concept you would like me to play with today, okay? I'm gonna create a poll. Yeah, let's see, Vampire Mistress turns you. Okay. Let's see, I'll just say Vampire turns you. We can... what keyboard is this? I actually don't know. It was included with my PC, actually. Which brews you coffee? Okay, that's kind of fun. I would love to do some F for F ASMR. I also want to make sure that I don't alienate any of my audience, so I'm going to mark that the vampire turns you would be F for F. The others I expect will be for A. I love doing Yuri. Let's see. Sharing a drink with a tired elf. I'm willing to take 2 more suggestions. Okay. Yay, Yuri. Okay, the door is open for 1 more suggestion, or 2 more suggestions if any of you have any you'd like. Yeah, historically lesbians do tend to like Yuri. Oh no, oh no. I have terrible news. I have dreadful news. My dear son, Ravioli, he is flat. He has gone completely flat in the hallway. Poor soul. Poor soul. He has flattened himself like a pancake. Pyromancer teaches you fire magic. I like that concept. I don't know how I would do fire ASMR is the thing. Like with the tools that I currently have. Like I have a lighter, sure, and I have incense and candles, but I'm not sure how good of a sound those would make. I typically really like alchemy because then I can just fiddle with plants and things, or wave plastic around. Hold on a second. Let me just. I have a bunch of drawers filled with stuff I use for ASMR. So I just need a moment to dig through my supplies. Yeah, unfortunately I don't have that on hand. I have been looking into buying some more ASMR supplies in the near future. Currently high on the priority list, we have Mimikaki. I want to get some of the nice fluffy ear picks. Pollution Mancer. See, this really does just sound like plastic to me. Okay. Yeah, I can do a familiar summoning ritual. I can absolutely do that. And friend takes care of your messed up hair. Okay. I'm down for both of those as our last two options. Why am I so limited? Friend does your hair. And familiar summoning. Okay, and we're gonna make this a 3-minute long poll. And here we go. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Unrelated to ASMR, but have you played much of the new Uma scenario? I have. You wonder how I do blood-sucking sounds? Well, I can do some right now. While we wait for the poll results to come in, I can explain how I do it. Before we move on real quick, I have played a lot of the new scenario. I did recently get Kita-san Black, actually, on the free polls for the anniversary, which is something that makes me very happy. I think the new scenario makes for some very strong Umas. It's also very slow. It's so slow. It takes so long. Yeah, I actually, because I got 2 copies of Kita-san Black before I got any copies of Tannhäuser. Oh, I love Sweep Tosho. She's adorable. She's so sweet. She's so silly. She's a good kid. I do suck blood by biting myself. Observe how Flawless Faye makes blood-sucking audio. How... You see, and you just bite your hand. You just bite. Oh, thank you for subscribing, Elizabeth. Hello. Your favorites are Phenomeno and Shinko Windy. Oh, I do love Windy. Windy's very good. I have a lot that are kind of in the running for my favorites. My first favorite would probably be Tokai Teo. Teo is If you have not watched the Uma anime, oh, the winner has been announced. Vampire Yuri. We're going to be doing some lesbian vampire. Ooh. Alright. 3 fractures. 3 fractures. As someone who has recurrent ankle sprains, I find myself relating strongly to the athlete who you know, ended up struggling because of recurrent breaks. If you haven't watched the Uma anime, I would recommend skipping season 1 because I don't like how the trainer is in season 1 of the original Uma anime, but like season 2 is genuinely peak. I cried several times over the course of that season, and it follows the character of Tokai Teo. She's so good. She's so gay for McQueen. She's really, really relatable to me, honestly. She hurts my heart. She hurts my heart so much, and I love her. Also watch. There's the Kachow, yeah. Mejiro McQueen is a racehorse separate from the car. For me, the thing that I get with season 1 is like it's decently solid, but then every time the trainer does something creepy, it makes me want to rip my hair out. And he stops being creepy in season 2. In season 2, he becomes a pathetic wet cat of a man who genuinely just wants the best for his trainee, and that's much better to me. Yeah, no, it's season 1, there's a recurring bit where he inspects the leg muscles of the girls, which involves grabbing their calves and or thighs. They realize in season 2 that it's not a funny bit, and so they stop. And so he goes from a pathetic weirdo creep to just a pathetic weirdo. See, he's genuinely really good in season 2. In season 2, he goes from the character he was in season 1 to now being someone who so desperately wants the best for the trainees under his care. He so badly wants them to thrive and wants them to succeed, and he's so bad at everything. And we have these like scenes of him fucking crying in a bar over a drink, talking to one of his trainer friends about how he wants to help Teo and he wants her to keep running, but he's so scared that she's gonna give up and he doesn't know what to do. And he's so pathetic in season 2. I love him in season 2. All right. So yeah, season 2 is great. Season 3 is pretty solid. I'm actually not finished with season 3. The beginning of a new era movie is phenomenal, and Cinderella Grey is fantastic. The main trainer in Cinderella Grey is such an egg. Honestly, Kitahara Joe wants to be an Uma Musume. I will die on that hill. Kitahara Joe wants to be an Uma, and so is living vicariously through their trainee. My heart is dead set on that. Which to watch first, Sin Grey or the OG anime? I personally think very fondly of season 2 of the anime, but I do think as far as like overall quality as a show, the original anime is much more lighthearted and fun and silly. Cinderella Grey is a very serious sports anime, and a very good sports anime. So it depends kind of on what you're looking for. You can totally start with Cinderella Grey if you want, though. Like, it doesn't require any of the context from the rest of the show. Is that what I based that whole storyline on? No, not really. The Uma story was just my own thing. The initial concept was based on Agnes Tachyon's career in the game. Anyways, I'm going to stop rambling about that now because we have a poll winner and I should probably, actually do that. Are we going to get more of the Uma story? I have more Uma audios planned. There are more that I'm thinking of. That specific story is probably over, though. I would want to tell other stories in that same world. They might still be transgender. And we might still reference that previous series, but oh yeah, Otonashi wants to be an Uma as well. She totally does. Alright, let's see. What do I need for this vampire audio? I have ideas. I have ideas. I have ideas. I'm going to. Okay. Okay. First things first. I'm taking my hair down. I had my hair into a bun. I had my hair up in a bun, so it would be out of my face for the face cam. But I have an idea for this audio, and it needs to be down for that. So I'm gonna do that, and I think I need to grab my hairbrush real quick. We're gonna do some hairbrushing audio as well as some biting for this, okay? So I'm gonna be right back while I grab my hairbrush. Okay. Okay. Hi, I'm back. I got my hairbrush. I also got this cat. He's actually being very chill in my arms right now. Oh, he's about to not be though, I think. Down you get. Alright, alright, alright. The way the model stares while I'm gone. You love default pose, don't you? Alright, so I have my hairbrush. I have my chomping teeth. And we're actually already in my preferred backdrop for vampire stuff, so that works great. Let's see, any other sounds that make sense for a vampire? I think we're just gonna go with this for now. If an idea strikes me, an idea strikes me. Okay. He is very large. Yes, I do make VODs. There is a VOD channel now that you can pay a visit to in the future. This should be uploaded on there by around 6 to 7 tomorrow. Alright, Vampire Yuri. I'm locking in. Technically there's a way I could get rid of the wings, but I don't remember how to do it, so I'm gonna be a fairy dragon vampire, and you're gonna have to accept that for now. Okay. Hello, my dear. How are you doing on this fine evening? I sincerely hope you're doing well. It's quite a special day, after all, isn't it? I think it's been quite some time since I've fallen for someone like I've fallen for you. And I find myself so incredibly grateful that you are willing to embrace this change for me. I will admit, I've grown tired of falling for mortal women time and time again and watching them all age and then fade. There's a certain beauty to it, to be sure, but gods, do I miss them. Always do I miss them. I decided for myself, no more, never again. Never again. Today, my dear, if you're ready, I would like to turn you. Of course you're ready. Of course you are. I suppose I'm letting my own nerves get the best of me. Well, in that case, it's about time that I prepare you. After all, I'm going to drink until there's nothing left, and then feed you of my own blood. You will die and be reborn. And you must look your best for that. You absolutely must. I would accept nothing less. Besides, there's a whole ceremony out of the thing, you know? So many elder vampires. They're going to want to see you before I bring you back, and to be there when you rise. Ritual and pomp and circumstance. It's all nonsense, but if we're going to make an entire affair out of it, then you will be an absolute vision when the time comes, won't you? There we are. Oh. You've been working so hard to adapt your sleep schedule to mine. It's so sweet of you, truly. So cute and precious and sweet. But my goodness, do you have quite the bedhead when you wake up. Oh, well. There will be no tossing or turning in your sleep. Very soon. You will sleep like the grave. You know, none of the elders really appreciate my vampire humor. It's a shame. I'm hilarious. There we are. There we are. Absolutely beautiful. Truly. You are a vision. Now, I would do your makeup as well, but considering I'm not really sure what your complexion will look like in your coming deathly pallor, we can hold off on that until after. In the meantime, it's about time I do this. This is your last chance to change your mind. You know that, right? You're certain. Of course you are. You've been certain for quite some time, haven't you? Oh, from the day you found out what I was, you were certain. Well, admittedly, it took me a little while longer to come to the same conclusion, but I'm quite glad that we agree. All right. Then, how about one last kiss while you're still warm and flush with life? I love you so much, my dear. I have for so very long, and I am looking forward to the coming centuries together. Really, really, I am. All right. It's time. You know the drill. Deep breath and hold. You're going to start feeling rather dizzy soon. Just bear with the process. All right. When you start to feel yourself fading, I need you to let me know, okay? When that time comes, I'll feed you with my own blood, all right? You're starting to feel a little bit out of it, are you? Okay. Okay. All right. Now I'm just going to bite myself, just like that. Drink. Drink for me. There we are. There we are. Good girl. Good girl. You're doing so wonderfully for me. Good. All right. All right, my lovely girl. My sweet darling. You're going to feel yourself drifting slowly but surely. It will feel as though you're drifting off to sleep. Alright? And I'll be here the whole time. And once you've drifted away, once you have drifted away, my lovely, then you can begin the process of your rather unholy resurrection. And then you and I will have all of eternity together. You can just lay here in my lap, and I will brush your hair as you slowly drift away. And I promise you, my love, I promise you, with all that I have, I promise you, with all that I am, I promise you, I will be the first face you see when you wake up. That's it. Let your eyes drift shut and you're breathing slow. Thousands and thousands of years together. You and I love you so very much, my dear. Thank you for placing your trust in me. So how was that, my lovelies? I love vampire turning audios so much. This is actually I believe, my second time turning the listener into a vampire. I have a pre-record. I have one that I recorded on YouTube as well. Oh, I can attack your emojis. I didn't know I could attack them like that. That's amazing. That was a fun one. It was very fun. I really hope that everyone enjoyed today. Oh, so you're just going to accost me now, is that it? Typically, I end the ASMR streams at around 4 p.m. Eastern. Ah, Jesus, not the roaches. Dropping bugs on my head. Dropping bugs on my head. Incredibly rude. Typically the ASMR streams run to about 4 p.m. So I don't know that we have enough time for another full role play, but if there are any sounds you would like to play with for these last 15 minutes, I would be very happy to indulge you. Maybe some typing sounds or some writing, perhaps. Anything you would like. Or you can just keep attacking me with your emotes. That is also an option you have available to you. Some finger flicking. Just a little bit of that. Attacked by emojis ASMR. Typing sounds? Okay. I will gladly provide you some typing sounds. I have to position this very carefully near the mic. I'm so grateful that I got this keyboard. It came with the computer, but it's so clacky compared to my old one. I could remove your ability to attack me with emojis. I have that power. You know, I actually have been writing something. I discussed potentially making an audiobook format of this in the future. But if you want, my friends, for these last 15 minutes, and honestly, probably a little bit longer than that, I could read for you the first draft of a chapter of some Uma fanfic I've been writing. If you're interested. Let's see, where is it? There it is. Uma is short for Uma Musume, which is a video game about horse girls. And I've been writing some fanfic about it lately. I have chapter 1 fully drafted. Chapter 2 is in progress. So you're gonna get to see this before I post it on AO3 or on ScribbleHub or anywhere, okay? You're gonna get to hear this. Is it Yuri? I'm not really planning on a ton of romance in this particular story, especially because our main character is going to be a former trainer. And I feel like there are some questionable things about writing romance with that in mind. But it should be fun, regardless, okay? It's going to be about Hirano Diamor in the end, which is a real racehorse, but not an Uma at present. Alright, then let's go ahead and give this a read. A holiday spent with family. It really had been quite a long time since I'd done something like that. For the last 3 years, I'd been the trainer of Manhattan Cafe, one of the most incredible Uma Musume I had ever had the pleasure of laying eyes on. I wasn't a particularly special trainer. There were certainly trainers with more experience, more knowledge, more ability, but as luck would have it, none of those trainers were willing to put up with Cafe's supposed eccentricities. None of them wanted to train a girl who ran almost exclusively after dusk, who spoke with things that they couldn't see, who hardly ever seemed to notice her competition, instead focused squarely on something off in the distance. Nobody except me, it would seem. I happened upon her one night, running her hard out on one of Trayson's turf tracks. Her form was rough, and she wasn't managing her stamina properly, but the sheer focus and determination she ran with was captivating. Not long after, I became her trainer, and my own experience with the unknown began. Day after day, month after month, year after year, Cafe ran, pursuing an invisible friend that only she could see. A friend that, though I could never see her, I was certain existed. The supernatural seemed to follow Cafe like moths to a streetlight. I never saw her friend, not once, but I certainly felt her. Sharp shoves to the back, hands grabbing my shoulders, a force pointing me where I needed to go and pushing me forward, all for Cafe's sake. Cafe was a marvel. She dominated the G1 Kikosho, the Arimakinen after that, and even the longest of all the G1s, the Spring Tenosho. She showed me miracle after miracle, on and off the track. And as much as I was meant to be her trainer, I often found myself feeling like I was just along for the ride. And what a ride it was. Cafe was retiring from the Twinkle series now, moving on to the Dream, and that meant it was time for me to start looking for a new trainee. I could keep training her, sure, but she knew her body well enough now. She knew just about everything I could teach her. I wanted to support her as long as she'd have me, but at this point there wasn't much actual support I could provide. But before I set out to find a new Uma that could capture my attention, I figured I might as well visit family. It was the new year after all, and I'd been so caught up in my work with Cafe that I hadn't seen them in years. Why not spend the holiday with them? After a pretty lengthy ride from Tokyo, I got off the train and jogged my way over to my parents' old place. I'd always liked running, ever since I was a kid, and that hadn't changed now. It's part of why I wanted to train Uma Musume. I was always admiring the way they moved. Of course, I'd never be able to match them for pace, but I was actually kind of proud of the stamina I'd built up. Before I knew it, I'd arrived. I wiped the sweat off my face and took a swig from my water bottle. It wasn't that long of a run, but trying to do it while carrying a backpack was pretty taxing. I enjoyed it anyway. I started walking towards the door, but before I even reached it, it crashed open and a cute little Uma came barreling out towards me. Uncle Haruto! The tiny ball of energy crashed into me, tackling me to the ground. Is it true? Is it true? Is it true? Did you seriously train Manhattan Cafe? You know her? Cinnamon Stick. My sister's only daughter. My parents' only grandkid. We were a human family, all of us. But while Umas born to humans weren't common, it could still happen. Ever since she found out I was a trainer, I officially became the coolest uncle in the world to her. Before this visit was through and I headed back to Tokyo, I fully expected her to drag me to the local track to watch her run. Not that I was complaining. My dream was always to help Uma Musume be their best self. Of course, that extended to family. I ruffled her hair, deftly extracting a red envelope from my pocket with my free hand, waggling it in front of her face. I did. I was very lucky to get that opportunity. Fuck, I can't do a man voice anymore. I trained myself out of that. I yanked the envelope out of her reach as she snatched for it. And if you promise to be on your best behavior when it happens, maybe you could get the opportunity to meet her. She froze in her desperate scrabbling for the envelope. Seriously? I nodded. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Once her mother came outside to pry me from that excitable young Uma's grasp, I gave Cinnamon her New Year's cash and went inside to drop off my things, taking a moment in private to breathe. I did really love my niece. I loved my whole family, and I wanted the world for them, but something about these little family get-togethers were always so taxing to me. I couldn't explain it, but I won't pretend it didn't play a role in my lack of visits. It was just easier to spend the holidays with Cafe. Oh well, it was only a few days. Once I had all my stuff squared away, it was time to visit the local shrine. We all walked there together, my sister, her husband, my parents, and my niece. It was nice. I made a donation, and I went through the motions, wishing that I'd find a new trainee that I could help thrive. Then I was struck by a memory. A memory and a hazy feeling. Last time I went to a shrine with Cafe, she told me there were no peaceful gods there, that nobody would listen to wishes made, nobody would grant them. She took me somewhere else. She took me to a strange, dreamlike place, and I made a wish. It actually came true, in an odd way. Where was I? Seriously. Where was I? The hazy feeling grew stronger. I was making a wish. I was with my family. When did it get so dark? Where did all the people go? Why did the twinkling stars above feel like eyes staring down at me? I was scared. I was really, truly, genuinely terrified. I'd crossed over into this unnatural space before, but always with Cafe. She was always watching, protecting. As much as this world contained miracles, I knew from experience it also contained unknown dangers. Sometimes I still had nightmares about the thing that used Tazuna's voice, pounding on the doors and walls of my office, demanding that I allow its entry. This wasn't the sort of place I should be without Cafe. Even still, it at least appeared to be the same shrine I'd been in before. It was like its mirror. I started walking towards where I believed my parents' home should be. And I wound up back at the shrine. The stars felt like they'd gotten closer. The sky itself was pressing down on me, the nameless watchers up above, judging, finding me wanting. I really shouldn't be here. There was a flash of movement. A figure with dark hair and dark clothes ran past the gates of the shrine. I only caught a glimpse, but she looked just like... Cafe! I called as I ran out of the shrine, legs moving faster than I think they ever had, propelled by fear and desperation. Cafe, wait! I could see her running onwards, rounding another corner. She seemed to be moving as fast as I've ever seen her, and yet somehow, with each corner I rounded, she was never any further away. Not any closer either, though. I followed her with single-minded focus, running and running and running until my legs gave out. I collapsed in the middle of the desolate street, and Cafe once again disappeared from view. My legs hurt. My lungs hurt. I hadn't even realized the pain I was in until my whole body gave out at once. It was agony. The stars closed in, eyes blinking. I cowered away from them, trying to crawl my way across the concrete, hoping vainly that getting inside one of the houses would conceal me from their sight. My hand brushed against something small and plastic. I looked up. There was a stopwatch lying on the pavement. My stopwatch. I didn't know why it was here. I hadn't brought it with me to the shrine. Lying right there next to it was a little headband, designed to make the wearer look like they had Uma ears. It was also mine. I hadn't seen it since I was a kid, since I'd been disillusioned with the fact that I would never be one of them. A strange, sinking feeling filled my gut. Instinctively, I knew I had to choose. I had to pick one. One to keep. One to let go. I didn't really know what I was choosing. I didn't know what the consequences would be. I didn't know what it meant. How could I choose? How could I know? The stars didn't give me time to think. I was being smothered. I had to choose. I had to choose. I had to choose. My hand skipped over the stopwatch. I grabbed the headband. Everything collapsed into darkness. I was alone at the shrine. Night had fallen, but the stars were their normal selves again. I picked myself up off the ground, and as I did, I began to feel very strange. There was hair in my face, long hair, a rich brown that faded to something near black the further you got from the roots. And my clothes suddenly felt too big. It was like I was swimming in them. What happened? In the time it took me to return from that strange dreamscape, night had truly fallen, and my ear twitched as a sudden phone notification pulled me out of my thoughts. Then that twitch dragged me right back into them. My hands shot up to my head. The sides of it were completely smooth, and further up, Uma ears. I had Uma ears. By the goddesses, I was an Uma Musume. A second notification brought my attention back to the present once again. I was an Uma. I did not know how or why. Compartmentalize, move on. Easy. Done. I pulled out my phone to find dozens of messages and missed calls. I pulled up the most recent. It was from my sister. Haruto. Haruto, where'd you go? Seriously, where are you? Haruto. This isn't funny. Mom and Dad are freaking out. Sin thinks you died or something. I'm worried too. Please answer. We're gonna call the police. Please. The last message was from a few minutes ago. I started to move, to compose a reply, to say literally anything, but what could I possibly tell her? Hey, it's me, your brother. I disappeared because I got trapped in the mirror world and came out the other side as an Umamusume. There's no way she'd buy it, even if it was the truth. I pocketed my phone, taking a seat on the steps leading up to the shrine. I needed to think of something. I needed an answer. I had none. I was alone, and nobody would recognize me. My life was basically over, wasn't it? You. A voice cut through the air, a familiar one. Who are you, and why are you crying? Somehow, Manhattan Cafe was sitting on the steps as well, facing away from me. She was also standing in front of me, staring down at me, a confused look in her eyes. I looked from one cafe to the other, then back again. The cafe that was standing looked surprised for a moment, eyes widening ever so slightly. You can see her too? Oh. Then the one on the stairs was that her friend? The cafe I'd been chasing through the dreamscape, was that her friend too? She was worried about you. She kept urging me to follow her. Fast. She's never been so frantic before. Who are you? Why can you see her? And why does she care so much about you? Cafe. My voice sounded pretty. It also sounded really upset. I guess Cafe did say I was crying, didn't she? I hadn't noticed. Is this what dissociating felt like? I don't... My words wouldn't work. My trainee was here. She was here because her friend had led her here, worried about me, and I couldn't even tell her what was wrong. I couldn't even begin to explain it. Trainer? Huh? And that's where chapter 1 ends. I'm planning on doing a proper, more like professional recording of every chapter eventually and posting them somewhere so that people can listen to this story as an audiobook if they like. I might actually reach out to a couple of my ASMR creating friends for some additional voice acting. But yeah, that's the start of my coming Uma Musume fanfiction. I'm really looking forward to it. If you know anything about the real horse, Hirono d'Amour, you should know there is some really great angst available to write about here. The real Hirono had a racing record that I could tell a story. I could tell a story about that, and I want to. God, I want to. We're also going to be featuring, obviously, Manhattan Cafe, as well as the entire JAMD polycule, because, you know, I love Jungle Pocket and Agnes Tachyon and Dansu Flame, and they are all dating Cafe, so we're clear. We're going to be including Smart Falcon, actually, as well as Asian Flash, because those two were both running at the same time as Hirono d'Amour, as well as Victor Pisa, who recently showed up on the Japanese version of Uma. We recently got Victor Pisa, and Victor Pisa was a major rival of Hirono d'Amour. I did so much research to make this. So much research. I love researching for stories. I think it's really fun. And you have a lovely day, Pile 23. You have a wonderful day. As a side fun fact, our main character's niece, Cinnamon Stick, in real life is also a grandchild of Manhattan Cafe. The real Hirano Diamore is one of the real Manhattan Cafe's children. So we have Cafe's former trainer becoming the Uma manifestation of the real Cafe's child. And so we're going to have them kind of swap the mentor-mentee roles. And then Cinnamon Stick is going to be a very minor character, but Cinnamon Stick, the real horse, is the child of a different child of Manhattan Cafe. And so I thought it would be kind of funny and kind of fun to bring in a very deep cut horse as the niece of the main character and arrange things so that, you know, the niece of our main character is also the niece of the real horse. But yeah, we're going to be going through Hirano Diamore's classic year, all the way up to her first spring Tenno show. That's where the story's going to end. And I think that's going to have a really fun narrative arc. So I hope you look forward to it. I've really enjoyed writing it so far, so. But without any further ado, we have officially gone slightly past our originally scheduled time. So, my lovelies, so, we're going to find someone to raid out to and call it there for the day, alright? Thank you all so much for being here. I am going to rest my voice for the rest of the night. Because I'm a little bit eepy now. Let's see, is anyone who I currently follow streaming right now? Mindful Mass is streaming, streaming Among Us. And then we have Skylord Zoe streaming Slay the Spire. I've rated both of them recently though. I will give Ravioli lots and lots of pets, don't you worry about that. Let's see, I'm going to... same category. And then I'm gonna look for... I'm gonna look for this. Okay. Oh, damn. Okay. Okay. Well, we have someone who I am not super familiar with, but looks cozy enough. We can go ahead and pay a little visit to another ASMR streamer. So let's rock and roll, my friends. Let's go say hi. Yes. Yes. We raid. We ride at dawn, my friends. Yes, I probably will be back Monday. I'm gonna discuss some scheduling changes in the future, but yeah. I have some plans and things that I want to talk about, and we will absolutely talk about that on the next stream, Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be playing some more Demon Souls. So I'll see you all then. You all have a lovely day.